when I looked at the sky, I thought, according to what they tell us, there's just like when people die, they go to heaven. So there's dead people in the sky and there's nothing beyond that. And then after ayahuasca, I'm like, there's a whole world after this. And even after I die, my spirit is going to continue. And we're all here to help each other walk back home. And we're all here to help each other step into our deepest power.
Hey guys, welcome to our SoulFam Podcast, where I interview space holders from all over the world. I am your host. My name is Karolina, and I am the Connection Catalyst. Today on the show, we have Valentina, a breathwork facilitator and a podcast guide for Pretty Mental Podcast. Welcome to the show, Valentina. How are you doing?
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm doing so great. I'm happy that we finally got to record the podcast together because we've been trying for a minute, but we live on opposite sides of the world. So our schedules did not align for a minute, but here we are.
Our schedules and Mercury being in retrograde, right? Because let's not forget about
Mercury
that.
in retrograde.
All the planets affecting us and our life, and we're just trying to live peacefully while nothing is working in technical stuff. But that's okay. We are here and we are excited to chat today. And I'm just so happy to have you on the show because I'm super curious about your journey and how you started even the podcast, because I know that usually when people are jumping into talking about specific things is because they have had some experiences for themselves or for people who are close to them that have, directed them to go into these specific areas. So would you like to share with us how you started the journey with the podcast and, anything else that you are happy to share and to exhibit, let's say, to our listeners? How did your journey with self-development and with also mental health has started?
Yeah, I would love to answer that. It's fun being on the other side of the podcast situation and having questions asked because I'm usually where you're at asking everyone else how their journey started. So this is cool. Thank you for asking. I think I was always meant to be on this journey because everything my life has led up to where I am now. Obviously, as it does for everyone, right? It always makes sense connecting the dots, looking backwards. The path is never really, or maybe not never, but the path is sometimes unclear as we look forward, but always looking back, we're like, okay, I needed to go through all that.
Yes.
But I am where I am now because I was a really sensitive child, a very sensitive child. And that led me into falling into a deep depression for like 10 years because of the environment that I was in, because of the way that my temperament absorbed the environment, because I have a very sensitive temperament. If you look at the fight, freeze, or fight, flight, freeze, I was definitely someone who froze.
Mm-hmm.
And I held everything in and I absorbed everything, but I wouldn't process it. So it would get stuck in my body, and that's trauma. And slowly I collected all of this baggage, and before I knew it, I was deeply depressed. And I didn't understand the point of life. I didn't understand like what is this all for? I don't understand why. It just felt very dark for many years, and everyone around me seemed to be miserable, and there was no light at the end of the tunnel. So I didn't understand what the point of it was. And I would say that it wasn't until I did ayahuasca that I finally, there was a hole that was poked in the wall for me, where I could start seeing the light seeping in. And I felt like I started getting my oxygen back. And my ayahuasca experience reminded me of who I was and what we're all doing here and the purpose of life for me right now. And when I say the purpose of life, it's like I know this much still. Once you do something as big as ayahuasca, you realize you still don't know anything.
Yep.
You still don't know anything. And then after ayahuasca, or even before ayahuasca, also I went on a Vipassana retreat where it was over 100 hours of meditation, and that was beautiful and intense, and that's creeped up into ayahuasca. And then after ayahuasca, it just, I realized that this life was so much bigger, and I saw how connected we all were. And it woke me up. It woke me up out of my funk. I often think that my depression was actually me being asleep to what
Mm-hmm.
I was. I felt like a human where when I looked at the sky, I thought, according to what they tell us, there's just like when people die, they go to heaven. So there's dead people in the sky and there's nothing beyond that. And then after ayahuasca, I'm like, there's a whole world after this. And even after I die, my spirit is going to continue. And we're all here to help each other walk back home. And we're all here to help each other step into our deepest power.
Mm.
And that led into my journey. I became a breathwork facilitator, passionate about helping people return back home to themselves. And then same with my podcast, Pretty Mental. It's all about mental health. I do it with my sister. She's a therapist. And that's all about the same thing, just helping people. Basically, we don't get a guidebook on how to be human. So we're just telling people, it's completely normal. We're trying to normalize being human and normalize the body, the mind, and the spirit.
Mm. Yeah,
Sorry if you hear an
I
ambulance
love
in
your
the
story.
background.
That's fine. That's fine. We cannot hear as much of it. I love your story.
Okay.
It is so empowering to know that even people who have been depressed for 10 years, they can get out of it. And for some people, it's going to be ayahuasca. But for some people, it just might be a psychotherapeutic session that will bring them this light at the end of the tunnel. Because I feel like ayahuasca is for brave people who maybe have experience or are courageous enough to just go into other dimensions and experience the darkest self. But it's not, I feel like it's not necessary for everyone, because even with the work that you do or I do, like with breath work, for example, you can also release a lot of trauma from the body. And with the completion process, the method that I'm using, you can also go back to childhood and strip away all these layers that have made you depressed at the very beginning, right? Because it's all about all these layers of emotions coming on top of each other. And at some point, you just are in downward spiral, because one thought held in the mind for 7 seconds brings another thought with a similar vibration, and you can just go downwards and downwards. And if you are with so many suppressed emotions inside, you can just get depressed and nothing can make sense in your life. But the child is not born with depression, so it had to happen at some point in the life of someone to feel like this. And I totally know what you mean by being super sensitive. And it's funny that we're talking about it now, because this is the topic that I've been talking about to two of my really close friends for the last week: how to navigate life as an empath. Because I feel like empathetic people are so sensitive to everything that I feel like their auras are so just I don't know, not as thick or not, or just very receptive. Because what I found is that these people have felt that in their childhood it was not actually that safe to be around others, and maybe they had someone in childhood that was very changing with their mood, like once they were happy and the next moment they were shouting or whatever it was. But these people felt that they are quite unsafe to in the environment, so they were attuning themselves to others to check if it's safe there or if it's not safe. If it's like, if I can say something or my dad will shout at me now, or if he's okay. And so these people were, or that's what I actually at least found with my clients, that sensitive people were just attuning themselves to others to check, is it safe there or not? Am I okay here or not? And that's why it created like a mechanism in their subconscious mind that then, even if they are in the shop or on the street, they are attuning to people passing by, because like subconscious mind is checking, am I safe here? Am I safe? So that's what I found. And would you agree with this, that this is what happens like for highly empathetic and very sensitive people?
Yeah, I think we're social beings and we mirror each other, right? So if you, for example, grow up in a situation where your parents or your caretakers are not used to regulating their own nervous systems, you are going to take that on.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we need as children are we need to be around people in order to feel safe. We need to be around people who have regulated nervous systems, because then we can see someone go through a hard experience and understand that that experience is not going to overpower them and that they're going to be okay because we saw them regulate themselves through the process.
Mm-hmm.
But if we grow up in an environment where one little thing creates chaos, then we're going to shut down. Anytime we see a little bit of conflict or a little bit of something going wrong, we're going to feel like there's no way I'm going to be able to face this on my own. And even being adults at, it doesn't matter how old you are. your body is still good unless you've processed that and released it. Your body still holds on to that. You can mentally process and understand as an adult you can now take care of yourself, but if your body has not released that, a wound up nervous system, and if you don't learn how to regulate your own nervous system, a little thing can just set you off.
Mm-hmm.
And then that can also lead in how it manifested for me was I was scared to be around people. So I became super socially isolated and I wouldn't make any friends. And I only felt safe in the comfort of my own room with a hoodie on and the curtains closed. And I needed to be alone. And I just didn't even know how to socialize with other people. I didn't know how to feel safe in any environment that wasn't on my own little island. And that
Mm-hmm.
turns into even deeper depression because we need community in order to function. We need each other in order to get out of our own minds and continue to go. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that the strongest thing that we can do for ourselves and for the people that we love is to learn how to regulate our own nervous systems. And I agree that it doesn't have to be with psychedelics. I know there's a lot of talk about psychedelics now, and I think it's beautiful because it can really help. But the reason why I fell in love with breath work was because it took me to, I always say, ayahuasca land without anything. I only used my breath.
Mm-hmm.
And the it's all about coming back into the body and understanding that the reason why a lot of us go through life fearing it or not feeling it safe is because we haven't processed a lot of these emotions. And if you look at how the trauma cycle works, if you look at an animal out in the wild, if it's about to be attacked, it either goes off running, the adrenaline shoots up in his body and the animal goes off running and it releases that adrenaline. But we don't do that. We don't process that immediately. We've like blocked ourselves off from feeling. So the adrenaline shoots up in us. We get scared, hold it in, we freeze it in our bodies, and then we continue to life, but we accumulate more baggage as we go on. And then before we know it, we're trying to escape through alcohol, through drugs. We feel depressed. We feel like, what is the point of life? And we can't mentally work our way out of it. It really is a body, mind, and spirit situation that we have to work with.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's so important to have this knowledge and to actually understand how the human mind works, because I feel like everyone who is depressed, they just don't understand how it works, because otherwise they would get themselves out of it, right? In the same way that some empaths don't know that it's a mechanism to be so sensitive and to attune to other people. And if they would figure it out, they would maybe not do it because it's subconscious. But if we bring it to the consciousness and to the light, it can be completely shifted. And I also have a question to you, because I spoke to my friend and he said, if I'm with you or if I'm with my girlfriend, I don't actually feel all this like negative baggage from you or from her, because it feels safe. So I don't have to attune to you to know if it's safe, because I trust you. But if it's someone random, in the shop or on the street, then it's kind of like a mechanism of safety. So so I believe that if someone is empathetic and is constantly attuned and sensitive and they don't want to do this all the time, they just need to maybe meet other people who are making them feel safe, and then learn that they don't have to turn this on. And so did you find that after some time of working on yourself, you are not as sensitive, or maybe you're not, maybe not sensitive, but maybe you're not taking on others feelings, and maybe you feel it but you don't take it on? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. For me, it was such a process because being the sensitive child that I was, and I grew up in a pretty chaotic environment, I I had to first step away from that environment. Step one was get away so I can actually hear my own voice
Mm-hmm.
and have enough space in my body where I wasn't consistently in fight or flight. Because if you are super sensitive and you don't yet know how to regulate your own nervous system, you're going to become someone who's hyper aware of their environment. So like a door that slams is going to be scary for you. If sudden movements, you're going to be acutely aware of everybody's movements, and you're going to be always almost like an animal out in nature who's always sensing and trying to see when is something going to happen. So I need to, in order for me to feel safe, I need to be aware. So we first have to get into an environment where we are not constantly trying to figure out what's happening. Get into a space where you can feel peace, where you can hear yourself again, where you can have the silence that you need in order for your nervous system to start calming down.
Mm-hmm.
And then go into, be in situations where that feel safe to you. I think I definitely started going into situations that felt safe to me until I felt strong enough to then be around other people who maybe they were a little more unregulated, but I knew that I wasn't going to take it on because I had practiced listening to my own voice first, and I had practiced learning how to surrender and to trust and to feel something and actually feel it and let it go through. So I knew I was going to be okay. In the
Mm-hmm.
space where I didn't feel that safe, if someone was unregulated around me, would immediately, the only thing I cared about was how am I going to be okay? How can I make this situation okay for all of us to be okay again?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now, if something happens, I may feel a little bit of nerves in my body or like my throat might close up, but I just become aware of my body and how it's feeling. And I don't try to create a narrative for what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
because oftentimes our brains are a little bit archaic. It interprets everything as actual danger.
Yep.
And it's just not like that anymore. We're not about to be eaten by a lion every other minute. So we have to be aware of feeling everything in our body and just feeling it and not being like, oh my God, everything's like chaos, chaos. I'm not okay. We got to run. And now
Mm-hmm.
I can feel it and be like, okay, breathe into it. I can still be present. And also, I'm not going to internalize anything. If this person needs a minute, if anything, I can say, are you good? Or maybe if it's a friend, I can try to talk to them. But if it's a random stranger, someone, a friend of a friend, and we just happen to be in the same environment, I don't try to insert myself. I just, that is for you to figure out until I am needed in this conversation. I have strong personal and energetic boundaries for sure.
Mm-hmm. That's perfect. And this is exactly what I really wanted to hear for all these highly sensitive people out there. Because as I speak to these people, and I'm the opposite, I feel like my aura is so intense that I am generating a lot of emotions. And it's rare that someone affects me because I'm so just intense I'm manifestor generator human design. So I feel like I'm just penetrating everyone with my being. It's not
Mm.
easy for people to penetrate to me. That's why I do what I do, because if someone gets emotional on the session with me and we go through the trauma, and sometimes it's very intense when we go into the moment of being raped, or just really intense, or someone grieving their parent or whatever, but I am able to hold myself because I don't take it on. I'm more like just sending a lot of love and empathy, and then just really embracing this person rather than taking it on. So that's why I feel like it's very useful in my job. But I feel like for people who are empathetic, it's so important to hear this, that at first take space for yourself and then figure out who you are without influence of anyone around you. It could be maybe a week or it could be a month for you to figure yourself out, to know what is
Oh,
your
years.
energy.
It was years for me. It can be, like, it's a process. It's a journey. It's a full journey.
Yeah, and I can really imagine this, how it could feel, because as I said, I'm not that sensitive, but I can really kind of imagine how it would feel to be just affected by everyone's energy. So it's so important to get clear on who you are and what your boundaries are, what your needs and your desires. Because I feel like for sensitive people, because they are so attuned, sometimes they can take on other people's desires and other people's needs and other people's thoughts, oftentimes. And if they don't select, as you say, if they don't filter it through, like, is it mine or is it not, then it can be very confusing, as you said, very chaotic in their mind, and it's really not the best way to go. But I truly believe that every highly sensitive person, every empath, can live a quote unquote a regular life where they don't get affected by everyone. It's just about the work that you need to put into centering yourself and taking space for yourself if you get overwhelmed, and working through all these patterns and mechanisms that get you attuned to others. And you are a beautiful example of someone who has done it, and you are centered in yourself, and you're around people and you feel great. So congratulations that you are where you're at, because I really value your journey and honor it, because you've gone from being in a very bad mental state to now just glowing and being fulfilled and happy. So that's awesome. That's so good.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's such a journey, and it's still a journey. It's every single day. My entire life is devoted to my mental health, and I truly believe that when people start becoming more aware, yours will too. anyone who's listening, when we start realizing how much control we actually have over ourselves and creating the reality that we want to live in, we are going to have less tolerance for anything that takes us away from that. From the foods that we eat, to the energies we take in, to whatever our morning rituals or night rituals look like, to the content and media we consume. We have so much power over how we live. So much power. And it takes a journey to finally getting fed up with it, Like one of my things was I had horrible anxiety. There wasn't anything that didn't give me anxiety. I would wake up and I would be on high alert for anything. Back when I was in a relationship, I'm like, are we going to break up today? Are we going to break up? Like everything would scare me.
Wow.
I felt like a little fragile child who had to protect myself against everything and anything, until I finally was just like, okay, this is no way to live. And I know that there's another way to live. That's something that we also have to remember. Like, there are other ways. The current way, if you're currently operating in a very anxious or depressed state, there are other ways. We just have to keep going, and we have to attend to our organism. The human organism needs some love in terms of our physical, our emotional, our mental. Like, we have to check everything. What are we consuming more than just the foods? What energies, what TV, what everything are we consuming?
Yeah,
Start
because
really,
if you watch violence in the TV, it's gonna get you anxious, right? That's just
yeah, it
normal.
puts your nervous system on fight or flight. Even if it's something that's entertaining for you, you can't not wound up. And a lot of us are used to operating in a very fight or flight state, in a very reactive state. Even if you look at traffic, how do you react when you're in a car? How do you react when you're being impatient? Do
Mm-hmm.
you react to everything, or does something happen? Do you breathe into it? Do you allow for it to be? And then do you react? Do
Mm-hmm.
you ground yourself first, or do you just shoot into it? We have so much control over our nervous systems. That's number one. Like, really know that.
Yeah, it's so great that you said that, because I feel like some people just don't even know how much trash they put into their subconscious mind. Because, people watch horrors, for example, like they just put themselves in fear on purpose, and then they are even more in fight or flight than in everyday life. Or they watch all these like movies where people kill each other or fight or whatever, and it's all programmed in our subconscious mind, whether we want it or not. Even if it's somewhere in our peripheral vision and we don't actually watch it, even the sounds of that are gonna influence us, right? So as you say, like even TV or food or media or whatever else, everything is energy. So we need to be really selective of what energy we want to become, and then only consume and take in the energies that we actually want in our life. Because if we want to become a very peaceful, loving person, probably watching people who are violent is not going to be the best thing to do, right? Because this is not who we want to
Mm.
become. And there was research that said that if we watch someone doing something, even on the TV, our brain turns on the same areas as if we did it ourselves, just not in such a big, let's say, scope, like a smaller scope, but the same areas of our brain are on when we are watching someone do it and when we're watching the TV. Or it was kind of like when we are visualizing, when we are actually doing it, and when we are watching someone else doing it, all the same areas of the brain are on. That means that it's as if we did it ourselves, as if we were the one beating someone up. And so this is what we're
Mm-hmm.
programming ourselves with, and it's really not healthy. So it's so important that you mentioned it. So thank you so much for bringing it up, because yeah, it's just such a freaking important topic to talk about. And I also have a question to you. So what would you say that is the most important, or maybe the first three most important steps for someone who struggles with depression, with anxiety, that really wants to get out of it? And maybe let's just put psychedelics on the side for now, because obviously it can help us heal a lot and bring a lot of things up. But I feel like it's a topic that maybe is not for everyone. So what would you say generally would be the first three steps for people who maybe don't know which direction to go to be where you're at, to be on the other side of depression and anxiety?
Yeah, I would say look at the environment that you're in, first of all. And even if it's with people you love, if it's a very chaotic environment, you need to get into your own space. You need to get into your own space. A lot of my depression and my anxiety also went away when I went into my own space. And I realized that the depression and the anxiety was a manifestation of my reaction to my environment.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't inherently me. It was because I felt helpless where I was. And
Mm-hmm.
helplessness is a very powerless emotion in our bodies that will manifest as a more suppressed, low energy. So look at your environment. And then I would say take control of your body. Our physiology is everything. Everything. We need to break up the energy. The ways that I break this up, I cold showers, I exercise, and I breath work. That is everything for me. Everything.
Mm-hmm.
Take control of your physiology. And another one that I would say is community. Make sure that you have community around you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Go where your voice is celebrated.
Yeah, that's so on point. Because oftentimes what happens is that people who have depression have this inner artist within them. I'm talking about Enneagram now, the typology of personality. And I found that pretty much everyone who I know that was or has been depressed in the past is either a 4, which is an artist type, or a 5-wing 4 or a 3-wing 4. So the types that have this personality inside. And what I know about this personality is, first of all, they are very sensitive people and they feel very deeply, probably the deepest of all 9 types. They just really feel this depth of an emotion, which is stronger than for any other person, really. And it's only one type that feels it so deeply. So they are super sensitive to everyone's feelings. And also, they have this tendency of being in low emotional states because they, on one hand, really some people, some artists like even feeling low because then they can bring up a lot of, for example, poetry out of it or music out of it, because, oh, I'm so sad, I feel so melancholic, now I'm going to write some music or I'm going to paint some painting that expresses how sad I feel. And I know that these people, first of all, they sometimes are connected to their negative emotions in some way, so that's a good thing to realize, like, am I actually loving being sad? Because if yes, that's cool, but at least admit it, and then do something about it, or not, right? Just be conscious of it. But also, I know that these people actually are very often very individualistic. Like, they, for example, dress up in the way that is very unique because they love feeling unique. And often when it's expressed in unhealthy ways, it's so individual because deep inside these people feel like they don't belong. So if they don't belong, it's like, okay, fuck it then. If I don't belong, I'm gonna be completely an outsider, out of everyone and just alone, and I'm not even gonna bother with anyone. And if people, if I feel like I don't belong, I'm just gonna dress up weird and be super strange, and I'm gonna be on my own, and screw this all. And I feel like if for these people they actually find some safe, trustworthy group of friends that won't judge them, because I feel like judgment is a very the very thing that they are scared of, because these people are so sensitive that if you judge them, they feel it instantly. And if it's not aligned with who they are and how they perceive themselves to be, it's actually super painful for them. So shame is like a very big part of an artist, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
if they feel that this other person is, yeah, judging them kind of wrong, then it's a big thing because they feel it so deeply. So if they find people, the artists out there find people that are trustworthy and non-judgmental and open and authentic, then they can really feel safe and open up and actually meet their inherent need of belonging, right? But it's actually hard for some people to do this because they are so isolated and feel so alone and misunderstood, because being understood is also a big theme for an artist. To be understood is one of the most important things, because these people usually were not seen in childhood. So if they are understood, if they are seen, it's actually such a healing part. So I believe that, as you mentioned, if people who are sensitive find a community that they can really trust, and I always say just go on some meditation classes or yoga or breathwork, because there are people who are not going to judge you, not in the bar or not
Mm-hmm.
in the supermarket even. I mean, you might be lucky and your vibe attracts your tribe, so you might meet someone that actually vibes with you in the supermarket, but if you really want to find the community that is conscious and non-judgmental and kind of open to highly sensitive people, look for the places that actually are full of these kind of people that are authentic and in touch with themselves, because otherwise it might be quite hard in today's world to be around people who are programmed with all this bullshit and they don't even know how to resolve it. So that's what I would say. And would you agree with me that about this artist personality?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds right. I don't know too much about Enneagrams, but I know you're a whiz at it. And every time you speak about it, I'm like, that sounds right. Yeah. I don't know what mine is. I know I took the test and I forgot, but I'm sure I have some of that inside of me
Yes, I think it
because
was,
I am also someone.
yeah, it was observer wing artist.
Oh, was it?
Mm-hmm,
Oh my
mm-hmm.
God, how do you remember that? Amazing.
I know exactly, because I'm so passionate about the Enneagram that I remember everyone, and then I observe what kind of traits this person displays, or what kind of link to
Mm,
other people that I know that have the same type. What is the connection between them? Because seriously, Enneagram is, to me, it's manual for humans. Like seriously, if you just take it and if you really know it deeply, or deeply enough to compare people and to actually like realize the patterns, it's actually so powerful to know. Because then, if for example your friend is a four, is an artist, you know how to treat them, you know what they need, you know that they need to be seen, you know that they need space for themselves to, and don't take it personally. Because for example, for me, I'm the loyalist wing enthusiast, and these two personalities are very connected to people, and they love spending time with people and everything. And in the past, I would feel hurt if my best friend, for example, who is a 5 wing 4 as well, if he would take space and not talk to me for a long time, and I would want to talk to him because quality time is my love language, and I would, not feel loved if he doesn't talk to me. But when I understood that he is a 5 wing 4 and he really needs his space, I'm like, okay, that's fine.
mhm,
Like he can take as much space as he needs, because I know that he's filling his own cup, and when his cup is full, he's gonna spill it over to me as well. And it's just, I just stopped taking things so personally, And I guess it's not only
mhm.
with this typology, but if you understand the human mind in general and how it works, you just stop taking things personally. And have you found it on your journey that you don't take things personally as much anymore?
Oh my gosh. I mean, that's actually something that is huge. And I talk about this all the time is how if we want to take our power back, we have to stop taking things personally. We have to stop. There's 8 billion different people on the planet. That means there's 8 billion different realities. And we all have our own lineage of trauma and the way that we've grown up in the world and cultures and just different ways that we operate. So if someone, when we speak, like you and I right now on this podcast, we're meeting each other in the middle, and we're really listening to each other and observing each other and taking each other in. But we also have our own realities. It doesn't mean that now I am fully seeing everything from your eyes and you're seeing everything from my eyes. So we have to remember when someone does or says something that, and I try to do this whenever I can, is even if it really does hurt me, I'm like, I have no idea what they're thinking or what they're going through or what they've been through. There's no way for us to know the full, even if there are friends, we don't fully know what it feels like to be inside of their bodies. I think if there are friends, we have a closer idea of what their temperaments are and what they're more sensitive to and not. But at the same time, we will never really know. We
Yeah.
will never know.
And it's
So I
beautiful.
think it's why, yeah, it's beautiful. It's amazing. We have all the colors of the rainbow here on earth. And if we can just remember that, to just let other people be who they need to be, and we're going to be who we need to be, and we're going to hold up our boundaries, and we're also going to respect other people's no's and respect their boundaries without taking it in. We just allow them to be who they are. I think that is the definition of love. I think real love liberates, whether it's
Hmm.
platonic or intimate or whatever. That is love, when I see you for who you are, and I want you to be exactly who you are,
Hmm.
and I'm going to do the same.
Mm.
And we will
Yeah.
try our best not to hurt each other on the way, you know?
We'll do our best. We might fail sometimes, but at least we try.
Mhm.
Yeah, good effort, at least. Good effort. Yeah, I vibe with it so much, because I feel like in the past I would blame others when they did something to me. And now that I understand that everyone is just projecting their own stuff onto the other person, no matter the situation, then I take it, as you said, it's like taking my power back. It's taking responsibility that my emotions are felt right now in me. It's not like this other person is putting an emotion in my body. It's an emotion in my body
Yeah.
and I can handle it. And it's based on my trauma. And it has nothing to do with this other person. Even though they might do something that triggered this, it's still triggered in me. And so what they are triggered with is their projection and their emotions and their responsibility to handle, right? But even if someone, I don't know, says something not nice to me or mean to me, it's up to me how I react. And it could be a very peaceful reaction. I could laugh at it, or I could get triggered and be in my inner child and be traumatized by that. But ultimately, it's up to me. And I always say this example, like some people on the road, when someone is just crossing the way or whatever, some people would get super angry, and some people are just not gonna even worry about it. And some people will laugh, like, "What the hell is this guy doing?" And it's such a important thing to talk about, because like you can choose how you react to your environment, and sometimes it's not a choice, sometimes it's
Hmm.
a program. But ultimately, the more conscious you are, the more in you can choose how you feel in here and now, and you are becoming your true self when you strip away all this trauma through breath work or through inner child work and shadow work like I do. No matter how you reach it, but ultimately, if you are pure without all these programs, without all these patterns, this is your true self. This is your authentic expression in the moment, rather than freaking automatic program just running your show the whole time, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I think a lot of us are, really in love and attached to being comfortable.
Mm.
So the human experience is not meant to be always super fluffy and comfortable. And a lot of us react in ways when we feel that discomfort, we try to do everything in our power to get away from it. So if
Mm.
we're in a situation where someone cuts us off in traffic, we can really take note of everything that's rising in our bodies and feel that discomfort, being aware of everything that's going on, feeling that discomfort and being like, okay, I can feel the discomfort and I can maintain peace. Those
Mhm.
can exist. They're
Mhm.
not, they don't, it's not one or the other. I think what happens is because we are not aware of our attachment to comfort, then that's what causes the reaction and that's what perpetuates the chaos. Where,
Mhm.
we're not aware if someone cuts us off. We just know, like, oh, we tense up. So, like, fuck you. I don't know if we can cuss. Sorry.
We can.
We could just, like, we tell someone on the street, we're like, F you, and then we spread, we spew the hate, whatever. Instead of being like, oh, that was kind of lame. That person cut me off, but let me come back to my center and I'll keep going.
Mhm.
I think we have to really expand our tolerance for discomfort if we
Mhm.
want to function at a grounded state as humans.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that. I even made a YouTube video about it on my Connection Catalyst channel. Just step out of your comfort zone, because otherwise, you're not going to freaking grow. If you're going to stay in the same box with the same people, in the same place, same mindset all the time, you will never grow. And it's the same. Like if you stay with the same feelings in your body and you never let yourself feel something else fully, you will not expand. And at some point, you realize that the more you feel of this discomfort or just negative emotions, the more capacity you have to feel them. So then they don't affect you as much because you're accepting everything as it comes. So it's not even a big deal for you anymore. And I'm a living example of it, because I feel like if I broke up with my ex partner like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I probably would be a wreck right now. But because I know how to work with my feelings and I expanded my capacity for feeling negative emotions, I was just like, okay, we broke up and now I have to go through all this childhood trauma that is coming up as a result of it. Oh, the whole abandonment wound is now gonna come to the surface. And I just went through it. And I was just like, I'm okay with feeling it. I know that it's going to heal me. I know that it's going to expand my capacity for feeling even more. And now I feel even more empowered because I've gone through it and I feel like, yes, I did it. And, I'm confident that I can go through any feeling. But I guess it's also coming with the practice. The more you are allowing these feelings, the more comfortable you feel feeling them, right? And I don't know if you found it as well,
Yeah.
but it's a practice. It's kind of like yoga or like, building muscles. It's like at first, maybe you're not going to feel super comfortable feeling this super big sadness. But then after some time, you're going to go deeper and deeper and you're going to allow it even more.
Yeah, and if you can learn, if you have these tools, look for tools to help you and invest in these tools. to help you regulate your nervous system. So when you do feel these big, whether it's a breakup or whether it's whatever it is, if we don't have tools, then that could be the end of the world for us.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if we have these tools and we're like, okay, this is actually really painful, but I understand that this is something that is going to be painful. This is actually a normal response, so I'll be okay. It doesn't mean that it's the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that continues to help me is the way that I view my relationship with what happiness is, what like being a happy human is on earth. Before, because I feel things so deeply, and I guess it's the artist side of the Enneagram. I feel things so deeply. Man, growing up, if a little something would happen in my family, I'd be like, we're all gonna die. Like we're not okay. Everything is going to, crash down. Whereas now, and also when I felt a little bit of sadness, it would scare me because I'd be like, oh my God, is that going to turn into full on depression? Oh my God, am I not going to be okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, and I don't view in order to be happy, I don't think I need to be happy in like the stereotypical everything is butterfly and rainbows. I think that I love the rainbow of the human experience, and just because I'm having a down day, it doesn't mean that life is not okay. It just means that I am a human and this is part of the human experience, and I
Mm.
can still see life as butterflies and rainbows when I'm sad,
Mm-hmm.
because this is part of being human. Part of being human means we get the entire spectrum of all of it. It doesn't need to be one way. So of our relationship to what life is supposed to look like, if we can really work on that, I think that will really help us, because if we have an expectation of it looking one way, then when it doesn't look that way, we're going to be like, oh my God, something is broken. Oh, we're screwed.
Mm-hmm.
But if our expectation is no, it's all of, life encompasses all of this, then we're like, okay, on my sad days, today's just the day that I'm going to love on myself a little more. Today's just the day that I'm going to, like, I know everything will be okay and this is temporary. And until it, becomes okay again, or I feel better in my heart, ask yourself, like, what do I need today?
Mm-hmm.
Give yourself a little bit more love that day.
That's beautiful, because every negative emotion is stemming from some unmet needs. So if we can just meet the needs, then we can get out of the negative state faster. And I loved what you said, because I always say to people, like, I am happy to be sad. That's why I'm a happy person, because I'm happy to be angry. I'm happy to be grieving. I'm happy to be, feeling all these feelings, because of course it's not like happy that I'm like, oh yeah, I'm feeling this. When I'm feeling it, but it's not like, first of all, I'm not trying to fix myself. I'm not trying to get out of the state of mind that I'm in. I'm just allowing it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm happy to feel it right now. I'm allowing it. I'm accepting it. And that's why I feel like, yeah, this is a kind of my definition of happiness, when you can be happy to feel all of the spectrum, as you said, because we are humans and we're probably never going to be free of all the negativity, right? We are just created on this earth, in this experience at least. We're meant to feel all of it. We're meant to experience polarity. We're meant to create the opposite experience so that we can then appreciate the actual experience that we desire. So it's just so beautiful that you said that, because seriously, I feel like more and more people should be happy to feel shit. I think.
Truly, truly,
and
truly. If
and
we
it's
can just,
funny to say that, but it's true.
yeah, if we can just learn how to feel it. Take the mind away. Take the mind away. You don't need to fully, love it with your mind, but if you can feel it, it's not going to be as scary. It's just not going to be as scary. Our mind is archaic. Like I said earlier, our mind is going to create way more chaos around a situation than what's actually happening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If we can just put our mind on the shelf and feel it, then
Mm-hmm.
it'll flow through us. A lot of what and I think I said this earlier, but I'll say it again, a lot of what keeps us down is our inability to fully process something.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at your body like a pressure cooker, this is what I say to all my breathwork clients, is if you look at your body like a pressure cooker, we're going to be accumulating all this pressure. And then something like breath work, or what you do too, is we're opening the valve to allow
Mm-hmm.
some of that pressure out, so that
Mm-hmm.
we can actually be here and be present and be reacting to what's actually happening versus the chaos that we've accumulated.
Yeah, and the imagined threat that we have already created, and the story that something is going to happen, and all that. Yeah, that's so good.
Mm-hmm.
And some people maybe are scared to feel it within themselves by themselves, but then they can reach out to people like you and me and have someone to facilitate the feeling. And then at some point, they will feel fine, because I found that for myself, at least, I couldn't really access the depth of the feeling at first when I was on my own. For example, the depth of fear, because it was too scary for me to feel the fear. But if I had someone just present with me in there, and just the person that I felt safe with, the person that I trusted, it was way easier to just drop and feel it on the deep level. So if you're listening right now and you feel like you struggle to go into your emotions, reach out to me, to Valentina, or to any other person who does psychotherapy or breath work or emotional work, just to be able to have someone present with you, holding space for you, embracing you in this feeling. And you're going to find that it's way easier to do it if someone is there and is guiding you through it and is keeping you, making you feel safe and keeping you safe as well.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe start with that if you feel like you struggle to feel, because I was not a feeler a few years ago at all. And for all these people who are like, oh, I'm not a feeler, you can be. It's like training. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
anything really. It's like doing push-ups. You're not gonna do freaking 100 push-ups straight away, but if you do it more and more, you can go deeper and deeper into the feelings. And it's also good to surround yourself with people who are feelers, because they can make you feel
Yeah.
so deeply, way deeper than you may maybe even imagine. And speaking of Enneagram, once again, because it's 9 personalities, 3 of them are massive feelers, 3 of them are massive thinkers, and 3 of them are massive action takers. So if you surround yourself with people
Mm.
who are kind of the opposite of you, you can get their potential and their energy and then adapt it in yourself as well. So you can balance all of it. And now I feel like I'm way more balanced with my feelings. And before, a few years ago, I was only a thinker and an action taker. I wasn't really a feeler that much, unless it was stress, or fear, or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. But now I feel like it's just, yeah, it's just opened me up to so many things. The feeling, because life is about feeling, really. Life is about how we feel. So if you can know how to create a state of mind or how to work through negative feelings, this is very, very crucial. And so when it comes to breath work, for all the people who have never tried it or who are just beginners, what would you say how they can start, or maybe what they can do when negative feelings come up and they don't really know how to navigate it? How breathwork can help them?
So I think breath work is $1 million tool. I think breath work can really, really help all of us. But if you don't even take a session, I think my thing is go with a session, give yourself the gift of trying it out and see what you think.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't even want to go to that first, I would say the first thing is just when you feel something, when you have anxiety or depression or stress or something that's trying to take over your body, allow yourself to see where your breath is at in that moment. Because the first thing we do in a moment of chaos or stress or trauma is we hold our breath.
Mm-hmm.
And that immediately sends signals to our physiology that something is wrong. And it puts us in fight or flight mode. And that immediately sends signals to our mind to start looking for problems. And if we're looking for problems, we're going to find problems. So it's this loop that we have more control over if we can catch ourselves in that beginning journey with the breath. If we can elongate our breath, breathe a little bit deeper. Catch yourself if you're having slow, shallow chest breathing. If you have slow and shallow chest breathing, that's going to translate in our bodies as anxiety, and that's going to make our minds anxious. And then that's, again, if our mind is anxious, it's this feedback loop that's never ending. But we have to break the energy, and we can do that with our breath. We can do it with our breath. And something that I love
Mm.
starting with my clients is breath awareness, is where take 5 minutes in the day and just, even right now, we can do it right now, is just be aware of your breath. Focus on how it feels and the temperature as it's coming in and the temperature as it's coming out, and feel the rise and the fall of your chest and your belly, and allow that to slow you down. Allow that to take you deeper into your internal system. I think that this is so powerful. It really, really does come back to slowing down, because we live in a society that likes us to move fast and likes us to hustle. But the more we can slow down, the more we can regulate our system, and the more we can come back to a grounded state, and the more we can come back to awareness and in this present moment where literally everything happens. So we need to
Mm.
come back to this now. And I also have every month I do a full moon breathwork session where it's a group. So if you're looking for community too, come and join us on the full moons. I
So
can give you the link,
where can people
Karolina.
find you? Maybe you can share.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. I am at Valentina, Valentina .Sinistera, Sinistera. And I have a podcast with my sister that we mentioned on all platforms. It's called Pretty Mental. And we talk about very similar things that you and I talked about here, just helping ourselves come back home to ourselves.
I love this
And
name, Pretty Mental. It's like the best name ever for a podcast about mental health. I freaking love it.
thank
and
you.
you
Thank
and you
you.
girls are both pretty, so it fits you very well.
Thank you. And we're pretty mental. We're pretty mental sometimes. So, yeah, thank you.
Well, everyone
But
is pretty
yeah,
mental sometimes, I think, just in different ways,
right.
right?
For sure.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I would really highly recommend that you guys listen to Pretty Mental podcast because it's amazing as well. And so yeah, find Valentina if you want to join the breathwork and the maybe the full moon ceremony or breathwork session with the community, because community is so crucial, and especially now in these crazy times when we have COVID and we don't know who we can talk to and who is gonna get locked and who is gonna not want to hug us because of COVID or whatever. It's so important to connect to people, and if you are isolated at home, maybe you are locked down somewhere, just go online and do whatever you can to not feel alone even in these crazy times, because really that's why we're doing this podcast as well, SoulFam, right, to connect people from all over the world. And we are in the process of making the app as well, social network app, for all the conscious people from all over the world to never feel lonely again, to always feel like they have some people that are interested in the same topics in the same city that they can hang out with or go for the same yoga class. And I feel like it's so important, especially now, to connect with others, to find the community. So it could be a good step for you to join Valentina's community on the full moon. And yeah, I really, really recommend it. But we have a little bit of time, so I would like to ask you
Yeah.
one more question, or maybe a few if we have time. So, what kind of benefits for yourself and for your clients you could see after doing breathwork sessions? And maybe also, how many sessions do you recommend to get like very visible benefits, let's say? Or does it depend maybe on an individual, or is it something like regular, or how does it work?
Yeah, I think it depends on the person. I think it depends, but I think just like anything else, the more you do it, the more it accumulates. And that's when you actually start seeing some visceral changes inside of you. I think when you have that first experience, it can be amazing. It can be amazing. But if we just only do one and never do anything again with that, then it doesn't have the chance to really dig deep into your body and show you what's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and your other questions, what were you asking? What were the other ones?
Oh, just what kind of benefits it brought for people that you worked with and for
Oh,
yourself.
yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. It changed my life. It changed my life. I used to have, like I said earlier, horrible anxiety about everything. It taught me how to feel. And I was also someone I did not feel. Oh my God. I mean, my mom and my sister and everyone in my family used to say that it was impossible to have a conversation with me because I could never meet them. I could never meet them. The minute they would come with any kind of like conflict or confrontation, I would, no, 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 no. I just couldn't. My body would not allow it.
Mm-hmm.
And I would also dissociate a lot from my body.
Mm-hmm.
I would, if it got too tense, I would completely dissociate. And that was a protective mechanism in order to, because I was scared of feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So now I can be in situations no matter what it is, and I know I'm going to be okay. And I know that I'm going to work through it. I can go through, I recently-ish went through a 7-year breakup. And that, I mean, it's horrible. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
so hard when you have someone who has become a part of you. And I was able to really help myself regulate throughout that entire time. And it helps with, you know, we are energy. So the more that we stack in our body and we don't release, it's going to manifest as dis-ease. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to physically manifest in our bodies through our health, through headaches, through pain in our shoulders, through our back. I've had clients who after our sessions, even after one session, I had a client who had horrible, horrible back pain and she felt something pop, like like an air bubble of tension. And she didn't have it again after that. I can help with physical, spiritual, mental. It can help with all of it because we are energy. We are energy and we're using our breath as a vehicle to move it, to literally move it and finish the trauma cycle. Because a lot of trauma happens because we don't finish the cycle. We experience it and
Mm-hmm.
we hold on to it and it simmers in our body. But if we allow ourselves to go through the entire cycle, then we can release it.
Mm-hmm.
A really good book by the way, if you're interested in that kind of topic, is where is it? Because Waking the Tiger by Peter Levine. So good.
What is it
Waking the
about?
Tiger by Peter Levine. But on trauma. And it goes through it gives you an inside look on how our bodies work, which
Mm-hmm.
can help if people like incorporating the mind a little bit. I'm such an experiential person that you can just throw me in something. I don't even need to know about it. If I feel it, then I'll know it works. Some
Yep.
people like a little more science-based work,
Yep.
which that's good.
I'm kind of the same. I like to experience stuff and then read about it. But for some people, it's actually good to understand because some people feel safer when their intellect understands it first. And that's usually for the intellectual people like me, right? Like
Mhm.
Enneagram 5, 6, and 7, especially 5s. They are little researchers and investigators and observers sometimes. So sometimes they like to know before they try something. But thank you so much for sharing that. I really can feel your passion to breathwork and I can feel how much it has helped you. And I have a little kind of personal question, but maybe it's going to be interesting for the listeners to hear about it as well. Because if someone maybe listens to other podcasts, they already know that I had experiences on breathwork when I fell asleep after breathing. And although my body was full of energy, my just brain just shut down and I was asleep for like a few minutes or I don't even know how long. But do you find that sometimes people have this kind of reaction that it's kind of normal for that to happen?
That they fall asleep.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I had a client fall asleep on me, and I had to sit with her for like 30 minutes watching her sleep because I couldn't get off virtually. I was like, "Oh my god, wake up!"
That's
But
funny.
it's it really there's a few different reasons why it could, and this is so specific, so I can't give any general statements. But a few reasons can be: one, sometimes your body actually really needs that sleep and you finally got your nervous system in a state where it was able to let go and it allows you to sleep and finally fall into that resting period where you can recharge and heal.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that it can be is if you are someone whose mechanism is dissociation, you can dissociate from the experience a little bit and fall into sleep. So
Mm-hmm.
with clients who, if that's something that's in your history, then we work on that. We work on coming back every time you want to float away, come back to
Mm-hmm.
experience, allow yourself to strengthen your ability to feel that discomfort, open your window of tolerance for that. um Another one, it can be where your brain waves just slow down into such a hypnotic state where it feels like you're sleeping, where you've slown, how like you've fully gone into those theta waves of where you are just out in another dimension, where I
Mm-hmm.
have fully experienced where I'm like, I'm not on earth anymore. I've tapped into something else. So I mean, it's a bunch of different ones. It depends on who you are, what you've been through,
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
But it's normal, so that's good. That
Yeah, it's totally normal.
yeah, because
Yeah.
it was actually crazy because I feel breathwork for me always energizes me so much. But then I was just thinking, how can I fall asleep when I'm so energized? I should be going around and jumping and doing stuff instead of falling asleep. But if you say that it's normal, then yeah, that's awesome. It calms me down as the
Oh,
breathwork
totally
would.
normal. Yeah,
Awesome.
exactly.
Awesome. thanks for sharing that. Really, it was a really important for me to hear, and maybe for some of our listeners as well. And thank you so
Yeah.
much for being on the podcast with me today. I have freaking loved this conversation, and I really hope we can chat again at some point in the future, because it was just great, and I just love the topic we talk about, and I'm just so in it and so passionate about all that it's just been really great. So thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I think you're so lovely. You know, from the moment that we met, I remember we met in a cafe in Costa Rica, and now you're in Poland and I'm in Los Angeles. We met in a cafe in Costa Rica, and you overheard me talking about how I was on a coconut water fast, and you jumped in and you were like, I have all these helpful tips. And I was like, oh, she's cool. We're on the same vibe. And then we connected from there. And now
I
you
love
have this
fasting.
beautiful, yeah. So it's, yeah, man, that's a whole nother, like, you should, I'm sure you've done conversations on this, but
Oh,
yeah,
not
fasting is a
not that
whole,
much actually, but I will.
yeah,
I will
okay.
because we
For
just touched
sure.
upon it a tiny bit with another friend of mine, Giovanni. But I would love to chat more about it because I'm just so passionate about it. And so when I heard you speaking about it, I was like, okay, I have to share what I have to share because I freaking love it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it was
You have good
so.
tips.
Yeah, it was so lovely to meet you and to see you today as well. And yeah, hope to see you next time. And thank you so much. Namaste, beautiful sister.
Thank you, my love. Mwah. Sending you so much love and sending love to all of those who are listening.
Thank you, beautiful souls, for being with us today. And if you'd like to find me somehow, I can help you with your emotions, with your traumas, and you can find me on connectionheightenedcatalyst.com. I use different healing modalities and methods to help you release your emotions, to help you change your mindset with belief change methods and inner child work, shadow work, parts work. I do a lot of cool stuff. So if you feel like you struggle to feel your feelings, or if you feel stuck in your life, you need some transformation, you can find me there and reach out to me because I'm sure I can help you. But for now, thank you so much again for listening to us. And I hope that you're gonna join and listen the next time as well.